What's going on, beautiful and exotic women of the world? So, I have been kind of doing my deep dive in these YouTube streets, taking the temperature, taking the pulse of the community and everything. And something that people are talking a lot more about right now is how people are almost offended that exoticals exoticize themselves and that we have woken up to what we look like, who we naturally are, and it's rubbing some people the wrong way. And when I say some people, I mean unambiguous who may not benefit from the isms, right? And in no way am I saying that those people are less than or unattractive in any way, but how they are acting is almost like someone who wants to be let into a club that isn't for them. It's very high school. And I want to break it down because for me, what it comes off as is they understand that there's a difference between you and them as an exotical. They see the difference in you. They can literally see it in you and on your face, in your hair, in your skin tone. They recognize the difference, but they don't want you to notice the difference. I'm going to say that again. They recognize the difference, but they don't want you to realize the difference. Because what happens is communities like this come about, where we are now congregating, sharing our experiences, building out a space designed for us to continue to strategize on, like Exotical United talks about, social climbing, to continue to strategize on beauty tips and secrets and amplifying our beauty, getting what we want out of society and out of the world, using our beauty to our advantage, the hardships that we've experienced because of how we look, which we didn't ask to look like this, we have a community now where we can all just come together and lean on each other. And so what it's giving is the women who don't fit into this community feel left out. They feel like, how dare you exoticize yourself even though you're black still, or you look black, or blah, 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 blah. How dare you exoticize yourself and think that you're somebody because you benefit from the isms. So they're mad at us because we happen to benefit from something that they have been talking about for years that is a part of their plight and a part of their pain and struggle. So I want to break down to you why I think people don't want us to notice who we are. There are people who are mixed. There are people who have admixture. There are people who are monoracial but look mixed. And for whatever reason, it really makes people uncomfortable when exoticals who are dark skin and brown skin in particular differentiate themselves and notice the differences. And when you see me, you can see that there's a difference between me and someone who is fully unambiguous or fully West African. And for whatever reason, growing up, I've had girls try to humble me just out of the blue and tell me like, oh, you're still black. Like, don't get gassed because your hair is long. Don't get gassed because your hair is curly. Like, there's been times where people have complimented me and the people around me have been so uncomfortable that they felt the need to tell me and remind me, oh, you're still black. Don't get excited, And it's like, wow, it just showed me that there is a deep-rooted insecurity with fully black, unambiguous dark-skinned people, and how they have a really serious problem with just letting people who have admixture or people who are mixed or people who look mixed existing and pedestalizing themselves and acknowledging their beauty. And, for a long time, I fit into those spaces where there were a lot of West African unambiguous women or unambiguous black women from America because I wasn't flexing my privilege. I wasn't fully in my power where I was like, I know who I am. I tried to really force myself into those spaces because I thought that that's where I was supposed to be. I was guilted into believing that I'm just like all of them. Something about that never sat right with me though, because I always remember being treated differently. I always remember the bullying from them. They would always hang out together and they always liked each other. But when it came to me, I was always like the person who no one wanted to be close with. No one wanted to get to know. People didn't like me. They bullied me. They hated on me. They picked on me. They laughed at me. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm just like you and all of you look like each other, why can't we all get along? Why am I being singled out? Why am I being ostracized? And it was because I look different from them, and that makes them uncomfortable. And of course, they're not going to admit that or say that out loud, but looking back, it was pretty pussy of them to sit there and try to bully somebody because they're beautiful and bully somebody because they are ambiguous and have a different look than you, you know? I just think that's kind of sick. And so that's kind of my background. I tried to be friends with these women. I thought that I could be friends with these women because we shared similar skin tone, but it wasn't until I got older that I realized that there was a huge difference between me and them, and that's why there was that constant disconnect. I also think a lot of times these women don't want you to notice that there's a difference between the two of you because they're afraid that you're going to maybe harm them with your privilege, which is so crazy because they think that we are going to hurt them in some type of way, almost like how white women have hurt black women during slavery because of white privilege. And it's just like, no, that's not what Exoticals are about, and that's not who we are. We're not trying to hurt anyone or belittle anyone with our privilege. We are simply speaking about our experiences from the other side of the pond, from the other side of the spectrum. And I think a lot of them are afraid that if we acknowledge that there's a difference, that that's going to hurt them in some type of way. I don't know if they're also kind of dreading having to come to terms with that themselves too, because it's been said even on Exoticals United channel, you know, that a lot of unambiguous black women pedestalize brown and dark skinned women who are exoticals and who are ambiguous. So they would almost have to admit that there is a difference between them and the women that they pedestalize and vicariously live through. And, you know, that can be painful. That can be hard when you have to come to terms with the fact that, hey, I pedestalize Justine Skye, I pedestalize Bernice Burgos, I pedestalize Tatiana Ali, I pedestalize Megan Good, or whoever. They may pedestalize those types of women because they have similar skin tones to them, but the disconnect and where it's different is the features are different. The hair type is different. And they would have to come to terms with that and actually admit that and come to terms with that in their own minds. And I think that's what a lot of unambiguous people are running from. A lot of them don't want to have to admit that. They don't want to have to say that out loud because for some reason, I don't know, is that like, I guess they feel like it's going to be a hit to their ego or to their pride, and that's hard for them. Whatever the case may be, I just don't like how they try to gaslight Exoticals and try to tell us like, oh, you're still black, like don't get excited that, you know, your hair is a different texture. I remember one time I was working this job. I was with these two black girls. One was light skinned, she was an Exotical, and one was a brown skinned girl who was unambiguous. And I remember the lighter skinned girl complimented my hair and she was like, you have really good hair. And I was like, thank you, but you know, all hair is good hair. And this was back in the day when I was like trying to dim myself down and like not make people uncomfortable with my looks. You know, not my proudest moment, but it is what it is. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, thank you, but all black hair is beautiful, you know, all hair is good hair as long as it's healthy. And I remember the unambiguous girl, like we were on an elevator while she was saying this to me, and we were leaving the elevator and she kind of just like murmured under her breath. She was like, thank you for saying that. And I just remember thinking to myself like, wow, so I have to self-deprecate and kind of like put myself down or like bring everyone into the compliment, you know? If I get complimented, I have to include everyone so everyone can feel included and valued, even though it had nothing to do with them, you know, for you to feel good about yourself or for you to like, exhale. And it's just like, damn, that's kind of sad, you know what I mean? And I don't know what it's like to feel that way. So I'm trying to have compassion, but at the same time, I don't like the women who are like super evil with their vitriol for Exoticals and like don't acknowledge that in certain social settings, we've had to self-deprecate. We've had to kind of tone down our beauty or tone down our loudness about how beautiful and proud we are of our beauty to appease other people and to make other people feel good and to make other people feel welcome or okay about themselves, when in reality they should be filling their own cup and validating themselves. So I just want to encourage all of my Exoticals out there, especially if you are brown and dark skinned, because that's usually where we get the most hate. Like if you tell someone like, yeah, like I'm Native American, I'm Indian, I'm West Indian and black, and you know, I have admixture. That's when people want to come for your neck and be like, oh, black people want to be everything but black. And it's just like, no, we don't. We just understand that there are nuances to blackness, and it's okay to honor your heritage. It's okay to honor where you come from, what's in your DNA. You know, it's okay to call yourself terms that are in your community. Like, for example, in the West Indies, I would be considered Coolie or Dougla, depending on who you ask. So it's just like, why is that bothering you? You know, it's like, why don't you exotify yourself? Because if you think about it, blackness is exotic, but because of the brainwashing and because of the impacts of slavery, you find it hard to find things about you that are beautiful and exotic and different. So that's not my problem. That's a you problem. I am going to proudly exalt the different aspects of my heritage, the different aspects of my race, the different aspects of my ethnicity, and proudly do it, you know? And that's something I'm learning to do now, because I used to be afraid of people being like, oh, she wants to be mixed, she wants to be something other than black. And it's like, no, I'm just being myself. And, you know, they notice that you look mixed. They notice that you look like you have an admixture. They notice that, you know, you're monoracial, but you may have ambiguity. They notice that. But the second you open your mouth and notice it too, everybody wants to chop your head off, because it's like, how dare you acknowledge that you're actually exotic? So ladies, I'm so exhausted of this conversation. Drop it in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. I'll also be leaving my email in the description box, so you can share your stories with me there as well. Have a lovely day, ladies.